Hello and welcome to the Dance Yourself Brave show, where we get real about the struggles dancers face, from confidence battles to self-doubt, and how dance has the power to make us braver, stronger, and more unstoppable in every area of life. I'm your host, Mariana Santos, founder of Brazili Fitness. And whether you're a seasoned dancer, a dance instructor, dance lover, or someone who's always wanted to dance but feels a little intimidated to start, this show is for you. Expect honest conversations, inspiring stories, and simple ways to bring more dance into your life, whether that's in the studio, on stage, or right in your living room. And if you're a dance instructor, we've got you covered with tips on how to grow your dance business, attract more students, and create a bigger impact through your passion for movement. So if you're ready to step out of your comfort zone, own your movement, and dance yourself brave, let's do this. Hello and welcome to the Dance Yourself Brave show. I'm your host, Mariana Santos. And once again, I have an amazing guest. So Kyrie Kowalik, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm so excited to hear about your journey. We were just chatting about this. I love hearing about dancers' stories because for me, it's all about the journey, right? And how that can inspire someone else to start dancing. So I'm just going to give a little breakdown of, who you are. So you grew up as a gymnast, right? And where exactly? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Paffin, Pennsylvania for just a few years, and then majorly in New Hampshire.
Okay, awesome. And then you switched into dance in high school, right? So Kyrie created a nonprofit performance group during her senior year where she began to explore her love of choreography and teaching. So she has over 15 years of dance education experience, is a judge for Impact Dance adjudicators, and continues to perform across New England. So very exciting stuff. So it seems like you've done a lot, right, over the past 15 years, right? So I always like to start from the beginning, though. So tell me about yourself and, what got you, I know you switched into dance in high school, but, how did that all happen?
Yeah. So, I started gymnastics right away when I was 2 because whenever I would cry as a baby, my dad would tip me upside down and I would stop. So they thought that was a good fit for me. And I did. I loved that for so many years. And I still I just recently choreographed a floor routine for a gymnast. I'm still involved in the gymnastics world and I love it so much. But I was really, really afraid of so many things. And I landed on my head one day and my coach flipped me. I was okay. But I just kind of realized that gymnastics wasn't maybe the best fit for me because and I had always loved the floor and I loved doing stuff. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to dance. And I really, with a couple blips in the road along the way, haven't really looked back. It's been such a rewarding experience for me. I really just kind of jumped into it. And even ballet, which I said I would never do when I was growing up. So I was like, that's for my sister. She can do the ballet. I just love it all. And it just gave me so much outlet. I just felt like myself while I was dancing. And, we'll get there too. I had so many different blips in the road, but I'm really happy that I found it back again. And it's just, it's been a journey.
That's awesome. And I'm sure that, the foundations of gymnastics help with dance, right? So everything, happens when it's supposed to happen, right? And all part of the journey. So you mentioned some blips in the road, right? So that's my next question. So what kind of struggles did you face? Maybe switching from gymnastics to dance? What happened kind of along your journey?
Yeah. So when I switched, it was actually really an easy transition, which is kind of funny because it's so different, such a different mentality. But I switched straight in and I started doing ballet and jazz right away. And then, I kind of along the way, even before I switched into dance, I had a lot of body image issues. Something, I'm still grappling with today, but it started at home and then kind of grew with the competitive environment of dance. So that's something that's always kind of been a big struggle for me, something that there's this idea of the perfect ballet body and such. And so we all, try to aspire to be that. And that's just not who all of us are. And that's okay. And so working as a teenager to figure that out was pretty tough. And, like I said, I grew up in the competitive world of dance. So all of high school was very about the competition scene. That environment of you're auditioning and competing against your peers wasn't always a very supportive environment. It was a very driven environment. And I learned a lot from it about, how to work hard through adversity, but there wasn't always a kind hand to guide you along the way. And my senior year of high school, I really bombed our audition. Like, I did terrible, and I didn't make as many dances as I wanted to. And so I really was like, oh, all right, dance isn't for me. Like, I'm just going to keep dance on the side. Like, I'm not good enough for a career in dance. And so I actually went to school for international studies, where I traveled all around the place, and I taught dance at a local studio, and I did some performances, and, I was really involved in all the dance stuff. And then after college, I was like, oh, okay, I don't know what to do now. And so I continued along the international studies path, and I really didn't have any dance, no teaching, no anything for a year and a half, 2 years. And so that was a really I look back at that as like a dark time for me, because I didn't have that outlet, that thing. But I also feel like it was a healing time to kind of like, okay, like, well, who am I outside of dance? Like, what are these things that I am without it? But yeah, so I, found a local studio after a few years of that. And I took an adult class a few years down the road. This was like 2012, I think. And emailed the owner and was like, I loved getting to like take class. Like, I loved the studio. If you ever need a teacher, let me know. And it was about 6 weeks later that I started teaching there, and I've been there ever since. So since 2013, I've been at that studio. For me, it was such an interesting journey, because I started and I was like, oh, I'll just teach like a couple hours a week. It'll be great. And then I was working full time at a nonprofit. And I was like, then I'll still have this other side of me. And an opportunity opened up for me to take over some other classes. And then I was like, I kind of really, really like this teaching thing. I thought I'd get bored of it or whatever. I don't know why, and I didn't. I loved it. And then from there, I guess we'll say I slowly took on more and more there. I got my PhD in the midst of all of this as well. So I also teach at the college level now too. And then the pandemic happened, and all of these classes started opening up from New York, and I didn't have that much to do. And then I started actually like dancing for me again, which was such a whole other experience. And one teacher, like, I've always felt, that imposter syndrome through all of this. Like, I was like, oh, I teach at this local studio. We have fun. We're like, nothing too serious. And through that interaction in the pandemic, through these classes, through Broadway Dance Center, and through, steps that started opening up these other doors, one of the teachers one day was just like, you belong here, right? Like, this is like your home. This is like, you belong in the dance world. And so that kind of really jump-started me into branching out of my bubble, right? I was kind of in a safe space. And I love the studio that I teach at, and I will teach there for as long as she'll have me there. That is my home base. But from the pandemic, I was able to kind of start spreading my wings a little bit. And so I started my own brand. I have my Kyrie Kowalik dance stuff that I'm doing. I started teaching at our local theater. I started judging. I started guest teaching all around. And but it was, there was a lot of tricky bumps along the way. And still sometimes I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing these things. But yeah, I have big dreams still. I want to start a competition. I want to do all these. I have some good big things that we're pushing along the way. But
that is incredible. And I think what stuck out to me was how you said, like, I started dancing for me again, right? And I think that that's the secret, right? With everything, like, no matter what, like a little bit about my story. I moved to Brazil as a teenager, super shy, self-conscious, then got introduced to Brazilian music and dance and fitness there. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to help people have this feeling. So I came back to Canada, went to college, started working as a trainer, group fitness instructor. And after about 8 years, I was like, I just can't stand this anymore, because the gym that I was working at was so focused on sales. And it became less about like what I was doing to help people and more about like hitting a sales quota. And I was like, I can't take this anymore. And I went to Brazil by myself at that time. And over that period, right, I got more connected with Brazilian culture and stuff. But when I came back, like, I realized I reconnected with my purpose, why I went into fitness, why I went to dance fitness, because of the impact it made, and not about like other factors that are in the industry sometimes, like you were saying, sometimes like those body image issues kind of pushed you away from dance a little bit, right? Like, so
Yeah.
you started to put too much pressure on yourself, and then you forgot why you love dance so much.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
dancing for you, like that is like, I love that. That to me, it says everything. So how would you say that, like, going through this process, how do you think it's shaped you as a person? And how does that affect your life today? Like, how does that show up in all these new ventures that you are trying?
Yeah, I really think along the way I've learned to trust myself a lot and trust my instincts. Like there have been a few opportunities that have been, this doesn't feel right, right? Like, so I think I'll step away from it. And I think in the past, I probably would have just taken every opportunity that came to me rather than picking the ones that were the right choice. So I think that that's really that trust of myself, that confidence is really something that kind of evolved over the journey, and it's still evolving, but I think that that's a big part of it, and that's something that I take into all of my other life. Like I said, I'm also a college professor, and I'm starting a new dance, like started a new dance class there, for people to find that thing, right? Like I work in a university where it's a lot of engineering majors, and they don't always have an opportunity for that outlet, and that's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. And so I started this dance class as a way of an outlet for them. And I don't think in the past I would have trusted myself to do that because it's a lot, putting yourself out there in this really new way. And so that's been really exciting too. And yeah, the confidence, I think, and the trust is so important, and pushing through all of the adversity. Like I've gotten so many no's, right? And that a lot of people are like, oh, I can't, if I get this no, like a lot of people I talk to in like the PhD world and stuff, if their article doesn't get accepted or whatever, they're like, oh no, like I'm terrible. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like it's just
life.
just one no. The right door will open. And so I think that that's another, that not getting pushed down by the no's, and that ability to pivot. Okay, that didn't work. Now we're going to pivot into something else, which is something I think dance teaches you a lot, because you're always on your feet. You're on stage. If something goes wrong, you got to just figure it out. There's no stopping,
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I do think that those are two of the biggest things, the trust and the ability to just accept the no and be like, all right, that door closed, let's open a different one and find the right one to sneak into.
Yeah. And actually, like, that brings me to something that I've been thinking about lately. Like, I know how there's a lot of, because of social media, there's a lot of talk about, personal development and all these things, and finding your why, finding your purpose. So that in itself is hard for people, right? To find out, well, what am I supposed to do, right? But I feel like what's kind of missing with this is, like, once you find your why, don't expect it to be easy. Like, just because, like, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're still going to have a lot of no's. Like, you're still going to have so many people, like, testing you. Like, is this really what you want? Is this really what you want? And that's where that resilience and that perseverance will come in handy, right? So, and dance teaches you that. So no matter what, like, when you find yourself, it's like, oh, I found myself. Well, that's just the beginning, right?
Because you're going to be,
you're going to be tested over and over and over again. And so many doors are going to close, but the right ones will open if you keep going, right? So I loved how you talked about that, because I was thinking about that lately. I'm like, I think people are starting to think that, like, the secret is just to find your why, and then everything will fall into place. No, that's just the beginning.
Yeah. And what I say to, like, because I also teach, the other class I teach at the university is called Design Your Life. So I'm certified in that as well. And so a lot of that is, learning those life skills that you're talking about. And I tell my students, I'm like, the why is what gets you through the hard days, because you have that to fall back on. It doesn't make it easier, but it makes it like why you're going through the hard time, because you know where you're headed and why you're pushing yourself in that way. And when you lose the why, then or the why doesn't motivate you anymore, then that's a chance for you to refocus and figure out what the next why is. But I totally agree. It's not, the why isn't the full answer. It's what gets you through the hard times, for sure.
All right. So what is one thing that you wish your students knew about you? Like, maybe something that they'd be surprised to know?
I am really, like, very open with my students. So I don't know that I have something, like, super crazy, other than that, like, no matter who you are as my student, I fully believe in you. I believe in whatever it is that you want to do, and that I'll be there in your corner all the time, all the way. I'm pretty like they know a lot about both sides. I'm very open about the both sides of my life because I have my PhD life and my dance life. A lot of my students don't understand what kind of doctor I am, but that's a whole. But yeah, I mean, I think like the biggest thing, I'm always in your corner, and I am here to support you no matter like where you are in life. If you need something 10 years down the road, I'm here to chat, here to support you. I got your back.
And that's, I think, what they want to know and what they need most, right? I love that.
Yeah.
So what about, because I'm sure you've worked with so many different amazing students, but why didn't you share like one or two success stories, like something that really stands out to you of a student who like you saw this, powerful transformation?
Yeah, there's so many. It's so hard to choose, but those aha moments are my favorite. I have a few students who they dance 1 hour a week and, they're not in the studio all the time. And I feel like the biggest successes are, the first time they pirouette correctly without being prompted, or the first time they get a step. It's those little moments that are my biggest success stories. I think I live in those little moments because those are the things that are going to build that self-trust, that confidence later on. I also, I have a student who came to us as a high schooler. So very similar kind of scenario, danced a little bit growing up, but really wanted to refocus on it in high school. And she came in, and she started in one style of dance that was her safety net, started in acro, which is also one of my favorites. And then slowly branched out and has tried all the styles by the time she graduated. And so I think that's another big success story because she felt confident enough to be like, okay, now I can try some of these other things. In college, she's trying hip hop and she took a hip hop class. She took a tap class. She's taken ballet now. She's taken jazz, that confidence to go and try new things. I think that's like the biggest success that we could ask for students, where they're exploring and feel safe to do that. She's like, oh yeah, like there's like all these people that are really crazy dancers at my college, but I'm going to go to the audition because it's a really fun experience. And if I get something even better, but I really enjoy going for the experience. And so, that's
how much is that going to help her in the future, right? She's going to take risks and follow, her calling, no matter what that turns out to be. And she's going to be someone who will be able to handle no's and keep going. So that is beautiful. So what kind of impact do you think you were looking to make in the world in general through dance, like through everything?
Yeah. So, I just want people to be able to find the best in themselves. It's so easy to be like, oh, I didn't do that right. Or, I have so many of my students who are like, but what if I go on stage and I fall? And I'm like, then you get back up. Yeah. So I just want to leave students with this confidence. I think that's really my big impact. Like I want to be able to lift students up, to try new things, to just be able to be confident in through life. And so I feel like that is something I've been really focusing on impacting, and just knowing that, dance is something that's healing for everybody. We get so caught up sometimes as teachers, especially like in the competitive side of dance, that it's about the awards, it's about the kicks, it's about the turns, but it's about so much more than that. And it's so easy to get caught up in that. Like, oh, the student has been with me for 3 years and they're still signaling their foot. What am I going to do? But in the grand scheme of things, like, yeah, sure, they're still sickling their foot. Maybe someday they're gonna figure it out. But what are the other more important life lessons that they're learning along the way? It's forever. Dance is for everybody, It's just that's the other side of it. It's whatever you want of it. It can be a profession. It can be a side profession. It can be your whole life. It can be anything. So I feel like that's kind of my two impact goals of life right there.
Yeah, I love that because I find that, it's very aligned with what my goals are with people, like confidence, right? Like finding their brave, like that's, the title of the podcast, because once you have that confidence, there is no limit to what you can achieve. And I do think that sometimes we get caught up in like, having to look a certain way, dance a certain way to get the benefits of dance. And it's so untrue, right? Like you just have to allow it to be part of your life and just like let go and be in the moment, and just like there's so many amazing benefits from dance, and confidence like is, I think, the more we talk about it, the more people will realize what it can do to change all aspects of their lives, right? So I love that. So what do you think?
Yeah.
Like I would say, like maybe based on your last response, like I could probably guess this next answer, but what do you think the world needs more of nowadays?
I think it just needs more support, especially in the, in the dance world. I see it really evolving. Like, let's just support one another. There's enough room for all of us to do the things that we want to do. It doesn't have to be a competition. Life doesn't have to be a competition. It can be a community where we're all working together towards something or towards different things. And, like I think about auditions and stuff, right? Everybody wants like these coveted roles, but there's so many roles and you're going to find the one that's right for you. So let's support each other and celebrate each other's wins. And I think that's really the sign of true confidence there too, when you can support other people in their wins.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, and especially, it's like that scarcity and abundance mindset. When you're in scarcity, you think that everyone is your competition. When you're abundance, you realize there is way more than enough to go around. So just working together is the best way, right? To grow. And no matter what, like the people that you're meant to impact, they're going to find you and they're going to be impacted by you, like specifically the way that you say things, the way you coach things. And that's great, right? But other people, they're looking for someone else. So you should be helping those people find each other, because we're at the end of the day, like as people who teach dance and dance fitness and all that stuff, like at the end of the day, we want to help people. So the best way we can do that is to come together and realize that not everyone is going to be for me and not everyone is going to be for you. And that's okay, right?
Yes, absolutely. I always tell my students, I'm like, take what I give you that fits with you and then leave the rest. And that's okay, but maybe those tidbits help somebody else. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So what advice would you give to someone who maybe is just starting to dance or is, a little bit curious about dance and they're a little intimidated? Keeping in mind that, listeners to the show, like you're not children, right? So maybe like as we get older, we become more hesitant to try new things, right?
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to them?
It's your journey. Live it the way you want it to. And don't be afraid to be a beginner in the room. We all started somewhere. I recently just started tapping again, which is something that I didn't do much as a child. I didn't really tap at all. And as an adult, have started to really love it. And I started out in that basic class, the start of like, let's do these basic moves. And so, you have to start somewhere and just live and love the process. It's just so much fun to learn new things and just so much fun to just exercise and try things and celebrate the wins every time you figure something new out. Just love it. I just recently started working with an adult who was like, everybody told me I'd never be able to do like a front walkover. And it's something I've always wanted to do. And I was like, then let's do it. Like there's no reason you can't. Like, let's start. Like we'll start at the beginning and we'll get there. And that's been such an amazing process to see the wins every week. Yeah, don't be afraid to start. Working with my college students who are so new to dance, a lot of them, and they're like so hesitant to try. They're not hesitant to try. They're hesitant that they're going to look funny trying, right? And it's like, no, you don't look funny. You look like a beginner, which is exactly what you are and exactly what you should be. So trust the process, enjoy it, enjoy being a beginner. It's so much fun to explore those new things and just love it.
Yeah. And what I love is how you mentioned to celebrate the small wins. Because I think that when we have this big goal, we expect to get there overnight, right?
Right.
And it doesn't happen that way. So if we're only going to celebrate when we get there, we're never going to get there. So you have to be more intentional about, okay, like I was able to, do this one step that I thought was really hard 2 weeks ago. I did it. Okay, now what's the next one, right? And those little steps, like they all kind of work together, right? And eventually you do get there. But if you don't celebrate those little moments along the way, it makes the journey much more difficult and less likely that you'll actually achieve it, because you're only focused on the destination and not focused on the journey, right?
Yeah. I always tell students too, I'm like, okay, so write down like the beginning of the year, like write down the big goals and then put them aside and think about what do you need to do weekly, monthly to achieve the big goal and focus on those. Like those are the things that you can focus on day by day. And that big goal is in the background. You shouldn't be focused on the big goal. We should be focused on what we can do day to day, week to week, month to month. And then like every couple of months, go back to that big goal and be like, oh, okay, I'm actually making progress towards that. Yeah. But you can't focus on the big goal. You have to focus on the day to day. So many people are like, I want to win this big award. And I'm like, okay, but that's not our day to day focus. Our day to day focus is how can we focus on our technique and our strength and our, artistry moving forward.
Yeah. So it seems like you do an all-around coaching experience with your students. That's beautiful. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I do like time management, life talk stuff. I've worked with as part of the Advanced Council in the DNSEND. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they do a lot of mental health worksheets and stuff that they developed a whole training program. So I've done some stuff through them too. So it all comes full circle.
That's wonderful. And I mean, I'm a big, I talk about mental health all the time because I think that dance is like the best way to improve your mental health. Like, I'm sure you saw the study that came out last year that showed that dance is the #1 way to fight depression. I'm sure just like me, you weren't shocked by that. But most people, it's great that we have that data to show people, look, dance goes so much further than just mastering technique, right? It's about you, dancing for you and how that can improve all areas of your life, right? So yeah, love it. I love chatting with you, and I think that everything happens for a reason, right? You end up attracting the right people into your world, right? Like we were talking about. But I would love for you to share how people can get in touch with you, if they're in your area, they want to take classes or anything else that you'd like to share. Go ahead.
Yeah, of course. So I have my website, which is mynamedance.com. So KyrieKowalikDance.com. And then my Instagram is Ann Kyrie. So it's my middle name.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a story there, but we don't need to get into that. And so I do in-person stuff here in New Hampshire, but I also do virtual lessons. Like I mentioned, I do choreography for floor routines. So that person is not anywhere near me. We meet via Zoom. My college student I mentioned, we still do Zoom. We do Zoom private lessons as well. Do choreography. I do mindfulness sessions like this on Zoom where we chat, talk about time management and ROIs and things like that. So yeah, and then I do the judging through Impact Dance Adjudicators and through Elite Dance Challenge. So if you ever need a judge, I'm around too.
Awesome. And all the links will be here in the show notes. So it's easy for people to click. So sometimes it's easier to just click as opposed to memorize
write it out.
Right. So it's all going to be there, easy access for everyone. Well, thank you so much, Kyrie. I loved our chat. I'm so excited that I got to meet with you, and hopefully you'll come back on the show again soon.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you so much for having me and for organizing this. I think it's such a great cause and something we all should definitely remember day to day.
Thank you for being part of it, because I definitely couldn't do it on my own, right? I need the right people because we're on this big mission, right? So we need to work together.
For sure.
Thank you again. And thank you for tuning into the show. If this is your first time here, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, leave a review, because that's the best way for people to find out about our show, and so we can continue to spread the dance love across the globe. I'll catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Dance Yourself Brave show. If today's episode got you hyped, inspired, or just made you want to bust a move, do me a favor, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear today's message. Sharing is caring, after all. And hey, don't forget, your courage is already in you. Sometimes you just gotta dance it out to feel it. Catch you next time. Keep shining and keep dancing yourself brave.